who went to school for animation, whose dream job for many years was working at Pixar, I don't think I have the words to say how disappointing and depressing this article about the future of Pixar is that came out in Bloomberg yesterday.
The reason no one is going to see your film is not because they don't want original stories anymore. It's because they're tired of seeing the same old animation style where the characters have no heart and soul behind the eyes, and it honestly all looks the same.
Pixar is now focusing on films with clear mass appeal, with less focus on directors' autobiographical tales like Luca and Turning Red. Basically, let's just do sequels now and not really focus on originals.
So if you know literally anything about animation, you know that at one point in time by a lot of people, Pixar was considered the GOAT of this industry. And look, I know that might sound a little crazy to some of you, but when you really think about it, it's not really hard to see why. I mean, I was born in the good old year of 2002, and quite literally every year of my life, Pixar was dropping a new creative animated film that was further pushing their names as the head of the industry, at least in America. And it's not like they didn't have competition either. DreamWorks was dropping amazing animated projects like Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon, and the first two Shrek movies. But when it came to consistent quality and creativity, it genuinely felt like no one could compete with Pixar at the time. And even if we take a look at their catalog over the years, you're gonna see some of the most iconic animated films over the last 2 decades. Cars, Monsters Inc., The Incredibles, Toy Story. Like, these were literally films that were shaping generations of families. But if we fast forward to today, it seems like Pixar is really struggling compared to what they were 5-10 years ago. Maybe not in the financial sense, but in the sense that this is a studio that built up a reputation of creating original creative content. But over the last 5 years, we haven't seen an original Pixar film come out that not only clicks with audiences with mass appeal, but also has the studio comfortable investing more into that IP. With the studio openly admitting at times that they are focusing more on their already existing franchises, which is kind of crazy to say. And in the current day where animation is in more demand than ever, people love anime, people love literally anything that Sony puts out. It begs the question, why is Pixar, a studio that was literally one of the juggernauts of American animation, struggling so hard to connect with audiences in this new age of animation? So what really made me want to make this video was the release of Pixar's newest original animated film, Elio. Now, this video is not a review of this movie. All you need to know is that this movie flopped at the box office, landing the worst debut in the history of Pixar, which, don't get me wrong, is still unfortunate. I think a lot of times people get caught up in the big names and the big brands. They want to laugh at Disney, but we forget there were a lot of just regular artists working on this film that put a lot of time and effort into this, so it is unfortunate that it did perform so poorly. But what interested me in Elio isn't necessarily the fact that it performed so poorly, but Pixar's response to the movie performing so poorly. Because shortly after news came out that Elio wasn't doing well at the box office, we got this headline coming out from Pixar that said, "Stop complaining that we don't make original stories if you don't show up to see them." Now, I'm gonna be honest, when I first saw this headline, I kind of thought it was a joke. Like I said, something had to have been lost in translation, but then I saw this video posted by the official Pixar account.
Stop complaining that Disney doesn't make original stories if you don't show up to movie theaters and support them in the first place. Who said that? Oh my gosh. I thought I was the only one in my car. But anyways, there's a new original story. Look at that. From Disney Pixar called Elio. You should go ahead and support it. It comes out this Friday. So yeah, you should go to movie theaters. Thank you.
And it wasn't just that video that Pixar reposted. Over the last week, I've seen a ton of other videos of people pushing this narrative saying that, hey, y'all let Elio flop. Y'all let original stories fail because y'all say y'all want original stories, but when we give you original stories, y'all don't show up to the box office.
Here are some upcoming original Pixar films that you can look forward to letting bomb at the box office while you complain about lack of originality in film. Elio just had the worst opening for a Pixar movie ever, despite getting rave reviews.
I've been raving.
And the real sad thing is pretty much everyone saw this coming because a clear pattern has emerged with Pixar. But it's clear that while audiences complain about the lack of original films in Hollywood, they're really only interested in buying tickets to established IP or franchises.
Now, I think this whole argument is funny because it's kind of disingenuous. And there are 2 reasons why this argument is just completely crazy, but I think I want to tackle the first one, which is the idea that, hey, audiences don't actually want original stories. They say they want them, but when they get them, they don't go out and support them. That is insane to me, because for that to actually be true, you would literally have to prove that there has been no successful original stories to come out that people have supported, which just isn't true. I literally just made a video not too long ago about Sony's newest animated film, K-pop Demon Hunters, which, if you didn't know, came out exactly on the same day as Elio. And in the time frame that these two movies have been out, while Elio has flopped at the box office, K-pop Demon Hunter has gone on to become one of the biggest animated movies in the world right now. This movie, which is an original film with original characters and an original story, is being praised not only for its amazing animation and art style, but also its amazing soundtrack that is so good it's literally breaking real-world musical records. And the only narratives I've heard people say when it comes to this film are people saying, hey, I want more of this. This is what I mean when I say I want original animated stories. There are so many people online begging and pleading for more K-pop Demon Hunter, saying I want a prequel, a sequel, I need more of this series. And I said it in my review, the reason why people like this movie so much is because it gives you everything that people want out of animation nowadays. Fantastic art style, amazing shots, a compelling and interesting plot, and just that sense that this is something new, something refreshing. It feels cool and it doesn't feel like anything repetitive that we've seen before. And there might be some people to say, okay, well, that's not really a fair comparison because K-pop Demon Hunter went straight to Netflix. It didn't go to the box office, so it's not really fair to compare it to Elio. Well, you could even bring up something like DreamWorks' Bad Guys. This was an original animated DreamWorks film that released in 2022, and it was one of the highest grossing films in the post-pandemic era. And not only was it a commercial success, but it was also a critical success. People praise this movie for having a fantastic art style, for being fun, for being enjoyable. All the things people say they want from animated films. And who could forget the box office success that are the Spider-Verse movies? And before anyone comes trying to argue that these aren't original animated movies, you're just wrong. Because not only is the plot to these movies completely original, we have no idea how the trilogy is going to end, but you also can't even argue that people are going to see these movies just because it has Spider-Man in the title, because they don't follow Peter Parker, who is the person majority of people think of when they hear the name Spider-Man. They follow Miles Morales, and even though he was from the comics, he was a fairly unknown character before these movies became so popular. So I would 100% label Into the Spider-Verse an original animated film. And when that film first came out, not only was it a box office success, but it quite literally shaped how people wanted to see animated movies and TV shows going forward. People loved how creative it was, how experimental it was. And as a result, you started to see other studios also get into that experimental creative art style that the Spider-Verse movie had. I think one of the best examples of this was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which genuinely shocked so many people for being one of the most visually stunning movies to come out that year. Now, if you've been keeping up with the movies that I've been listing to you that have been successful with audiences over the last couple years, you might notice something similar between them. And if you've been keeping up with the current state of Pixar original movies, you might notice something similar between them as well, which might make you realize that there is probably another reason why Pixar original films aren't performing well right now, while other studios that are making original content are performing well. And that's the art style. It's no secret that after 2020, Pixar kind of adopted this new art style that a lot of people compare to that one Grubhub commercial that came out around the same time. And look, I don't really know what this style is officially called, but I've seen people call it the bean mouth or moon face. Now, there is a slight misconception that Pixar has used this style for every movie going forward after 2020, which just isn't true. Movies like Onward and Elemental, while they do kind of resemble it, they have their own art styles in a way. But whether or not majority of people think that all Pixar movies going forward have this art style or not, one thing is really clear: people do not like this art style. The amount of people who I've seen come out over the years saying that they absolutely hate this art style is insane, and I'm talking about die-hard Pixar fans. And while they haven't used it on every single movie, they have used it on 3, and it just so happens that those 3 are listed as poor performing movies, with Elio being listed as the worst of them all. And this is where the whole "oh, y'all don't support original stories" argument also doesn't make sense with me, because when you're making a product but you aren't giving people what they actually want, can you really be surprised when it doesn't perform well? If the fans are constantly screaming, hey, we don't like the way the movies are looking, we don't like the way y'all are pushing the direction of the art, but y'all continue to make the movies in that same way, how can it be a surprise when people don't show up to the theaters to watch these movies when they don't like how the movie looks? I've seen so many people try to beat around this topic and say things like, hey, y'all are just letting Pixar originals fail when they're critically acclaimed. People are saying the stories are so good. That can be true, and people can still not want to watch the movie because they don't like how it looks. Take me for example, one of my favorite things about animation is that I find it visually appealing, but at the same time that doesn't mean I find everything in animation visually appealing. Some things I find just objectively ugly, and there have been shows or projects that I just refuse to watch because I don't like the way the art looks. Like, people have said like these shows are amazing, but I just refuse to watch it because I hate the way the show looks. Smiling Friends is one of my favorite adult comedies. I refuse to watch season 1 for the longest because the show is so ugly to me, and I think this is one of the biggest issues that Pixar is facing when it comes to their original animated films, because I'm literally just hopping online minding my business and I'm seeing people post videos and pictures saying, hey Pixar, please change your art style, change your character designs, I want to like your movies again, but I just hate the way they look. And when you have Sony putting out stuff like this, DreamWorks putting out stuff like this, and you have Pixar putting out movies that people don't find that visually appealing, it makes sense that Pixar original movies are not performing that well. Now, the second and final thing I want to say when it comes to this topic is this whole idea that, oh, it's the audience fault because they don't show up to support original movies is one that I will never be able to get behind, because at the end of the day, it will always be the studio's job to make people want to get up and go to the movie theaters to see these movies. No studio is entitled to their movie performing well. It doesn't matter if you're Sony, DreamWorks, or Pixar. And with how expensive going to the movies is nowadays for the average family, you have to be the one to convince these people that your movie is worth them spending the money on. But yeah, that's about everything from my little rant. I don't really know how else I want to end off this video, so like, comment, subscribe, and until then, it's been your boy Corin, and I'm off this.